Hello YouTube, welcome to my channel. It's Phil Thatch and I've got something new in the mail today. Look, it's a box and it says signature required, so that usually means there's something pretty cool in there. And spoiler alert, it's a macro lens, which you probably already saw from the title of the video. Well, my first macro lens I ever had was this Tokina. It's a 100mm macro lens for Nikon f-mount. And it does a really nice job, and I was always happy with it. And then one day a friend of mine had this lens. This is the Nikon 105 2.8 macro lens. A friend of mine offered this lens to me for a really nice price, so I had to get that. But these days I've been playing around with Canon gear, and spring is about to spring here in Tennessee. So I got this box. Here it is. It's the RF 100mm macro. Inside the box, there's some literature and a kind of floppy looking bag to keep the lens in. This will stay in this box forever until I sell this thing one day, years and years from now. And now here is the lens inside of a bag. Here's the lens hood, which has its own bag. Oh, it does have the lens hood does have a button, so it will lock on and not just come off. You have to press the button to release it. I do like that quite a bit. And here is the lens itself. It's pretty, it feels good. Of course, this is an L lens. This is my 24 to 70, 70 to 200. 100 to 500. This is only my fourth L lens. Oh well, I guess you could count my 17 to 40, which I bought to adapt. It's an L lens, but this is only my fourth RF L lens. Looks pretty nice. Check it out. Now let's see what we have here. There is a focus limiter switch, full focus, and then there's a 1/2 meter to infinity, and then a 1/2 meter to 0.26 meters. So if you just want to stay macro and you don't want the lens to be looking out at infinity, you put it on that first switch. That's pretty cool. None of my other macro lenses have that. Autofocus manual focus switch, a stabilizer on and off switch, and there's a lock switch on this side, and I'll show you what that does. This is a spherical aberration control, which it must be locked. And you can adjust this. If you put it in the middle, it looks like a normal lens. And you can adjust this and kind of give soft focus look to your pictures for kind of a creative look. And personally, I wish they offered this lens without that control for a couple $100 less. Because I think I'll probably leave this thing locked all the time when I'm doing macro photography. I'm trying to get at least the subject in focus and maybe the rest of the photo bokehfied. I don't want the subject itself to have soft focus. I may eat my words sometime down the road and figure out a way to do that creatively. But for right now, I'm going to leave that in lock mode and not turn it at all. Let's see, here is a very smooth feeling manual focus ring. This is focused by wire, and like all RF lenses, this has a control ring where I usually set this to exposure compensation. Nice lens cap. It is a 67mm filter thread, which I think is the same size filter thread as the EF 100mm 2.8 macro. So if you have any accessories that connected to your older lens, they will also work with this one, because I believe it's the same size. For me though, this is a 62, so things that I might have used on my old Nikon lens won't work on this, so that's fine. But I am looking forward to getting this out and using it. That will not be today. I've got, I just got home from work, so I'm not doing any shooting tonight, and I've got some sports to shoot, so sometime down the road, I will continue this video and do some macro photography with this awesome new lens. Well, now some time has passed. It's been like 16 days since I unboxed this lens, and I've had a bunch of things to photograph in between then. On my off time, I've done beach volleyball and all sorts of other stuff, but I have also played around at the house. Haven't gone out on any serious macro photography runs, but I've played around at the house enough to kind of assess the lens a little bit more. The one way I haven't made shots with this lens very much is by itself. I've used a magnifying lens on the front for some of my photos, and I've used extension tubes. So let's talk about those things a little bit. This is the Raynox 250 that I used some, and I like it, but I found out that I liked extension tubes better. Here's the lens mounted on the camera with two extension tubes. These are active tubes, and their combined length is 31 millimeters. This is a little planter out in front of our house where later in the spring we plant zinnia flowers, but right now it's just weeds in the very early part of spring. And with the Raynox magnifier on, I made some photos of some chickweed, which there should be some chickweed here somewhere. Now I'm not finding it. And I also made a photograph of one of these things right here. So let's look at those. Okay, here is the chickweed photograph that I made using the Raynox DCR-250 mounted on the front of the Canon 100mm macro lens. I'm at 1/250th of a second f/18 ISO 100, and I was using the Nikon flash. I'm not sure what power. I think probably half power. I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, I thought it turned out really nice. I've tried to focus on the operational part of the flower instead of the petals, because I thought that looked pretty cool with all these little pollen bits on there. So there is that, and then here is the other flower that I was satisfied with the picture that I made using the Raynox DCR-250 on the front of the Canon lens. Same settings on this one as the other one. Later, a few days later, using the extension tubes, I made photographs of several things, including this tiny little flower. Okay, this is the first of several photos. I had much better luck with the extension tubes, the 31 millimeters of extension tubes on the Canon 100. All of these have the exact same settings, and those are 1/200th f/14 ISO 100, and I think I used full power on the Nikon flash. This is a screw on a doorknob that holds, you know, there's two screws that hold most doorknobs to the door, and this is one of the two screws. And it doesn't look dirty when you look at it in the house, but it sure looks dirty when you magnify it like this. I tried to make my focus point kind of in this area, and it turned out okay, but because my focus point is here, that makes this area here out of focus. This is denim. This is a very up close shot of a pair of blue jeans that I have. That is what denim looks like really up close. And here is the flower that I showed you in the video clip. On this one, I was concentrating on this area right here, and I thought that turned out really well. In previous years, I've kind of concentrated on the purple streaking on this little flower, but this time I concentrated here, and I really thought it turned out nice. Here is a chickweed flower that I photographed using the extension tubes that has not quite opened up yet. I thought these little reproductive thingies looked really nice in this shot. This is Heather's eye. I made this photograph using the extension tubes in the same settings as all the other pictures. I've got some work to do to get this a little bit better. You can see the Nikon flash is reflected in her eye, but it really came out nice in terms of look at all the amazing colors in her eye. Galvanized nail on the hand railing of my back porch that needs to be tapped back into place. Here is that galvanized nail sticking up off the back porch that I showed you in the video clip just now. Look at that thing. Unbelievable detail. I photographed this screw, which at one point was holding something down that I was using for bird photography. You can see it's not very big. This is the top of one of the screws like I just showed you in the video clip. And this is the side angle shot. Really like the way this one turned out. That tiny screw, or small screw, it's not tiny, that's an inch long. Matter of fact, on this one, I had to back my focus up just a little bit. I could have made this shot without the extension tubes. But look, you can, even on this really small screw, you can see spider webs on it. I thought it turned out really nice. I love the rustiness and the detail, and the out of focus quality is beautiful. Here is a Chewbacca Funko Pop holding a Porg, and I made a photograph of the Porg and also Chewbacca's head. This is the Porg. Now this is really small, and I wanted to get its eyes in focus, and even though the nose is just maybe a millimeter different location than the eyes, the nose is out of focus. And look at these tiny fabric particles that are on it. It has dust on it and these little fabric particles, and as you saw in the video clip, this thing is tiny. And here is the head of the Chewbacca Funko Pop, and on this one I did not use all of it. I backed up my my focus a little bit so I could fit the entire Chewbacca head into the shot. Here's a cactus. I photographed one of the areas where the spikes come out of this cactus. Here is the cactus. I made my focus point the very bottom, the white area where the spikes of the cactus are coming up, and they drift out of focus as they get closer. I also photographed a quarter. Okay, this is the quarter. This shot has not been cropped at all, just kind of the bottom left part of the head side of the United States quarter, a 1991 edition. So now I would like to photograph a nickel, but I'm going to photograph it with the lens with nothing on it, and then with the magnifying lens on the front, and then with the extension tubes, and then with both, and we'll see how that comes out. Okay, I've also, during all of the photography that I've showed you so far in the video, I've been using a Nikon flash. I have a SB700 that I've had for years and years. And in manual mode, it works just fine. It doesn't do TTL or anything, but I'm doing manual mode for this. Now here is the nickel right down here. And right now I have no Raynox magnifier and I have no extension tubes. And what I do is I put the switch in the macro mode where it just does the earliest part of its focal range. And I'm going to turn the lens, turn the manual focus all the way to the right, which puts it at its minimum. And then I'm going to manually focus by moving okay. Okay, that is pretty sharp. A little overexposed. Let me back this flash up some. Okay, that looks better. I backed it up to 1/4 power. Okay, this is the photograph of the United States nickel that you watched me make. This is the one with no additional magnification. So this is the 100mm macro lens, which is supposed to be a 1.4 magnification, and this is every bit of it. Okay, so now I have attached the Raynox, I think it's called DCR-250. It just clips on to the filter threads of the lens, is how it works. And I'm going to try to photograph this nickel once again. Let's wake the flash up. Turn it all the way to minimum focus, or maximum focus, I guess, minimum focus distance. Oh yeah, that is much larger in the frame. Okay, this is the photograph that you watched me make using the 100mm macro and the Raynox DCR-250, as close as I could get with that combination. All right, now I have the extension tubes on and the Raynox magnifier off and the camera off. I'm shoring myself up a little bit with my elbow. Let's turn this all the way. It looks like the extension tubes are just a little bit less magnified than the magnifying lens. This is the photograph that you watched me make using the Canon 100mm macro lens and 31mm of extension tubes, and I really thought that this was going to be more magnified than the Raynox DCR-250 photo, but it turns out the extension tubes give me a little bit less magnification. But this is kind of the happy medium for me in terms of a lot of magnification and still somewhat easy to attain focus. Okay, now I have the extension tubes and the Raynox magnifier attached at the same time. This is the first time I've ever tried this, so I'm going to take another picture of this nickel. Let me turn the lens and make sure, you know, this thing's focused by a wire, so you never know where you're at. So I try to make sure and turn it to where I'm as close as I can be before every shot. Wow, this is really close. And a little more tricky to get just right. Okay, a lot more tricky. That is out of focus. Let's try again. Also out of focus. This is tough. That one's fairly close to in focus and much closer. So that will be an interesting comparison. Okay, this is the best I could do at getting a sharp photograph of the nickel with the 31mm of extension tubes and the Raynox DCR-250. As you can see, it is very magnified. And now we'll compare them all. This is both the tubes and the DCR-250. This is just the tubes. This is the DCR-250 without the tubes, and as you can see, it is a closer magnification. There's more room on the side of the building here with the extension tubes, and this one with the DCR-250 Raynox, it has less room on the side of the building, so it's more magnified. And there is just the macro lens by itself. So macro lens by itself, DCR-250, extension tubes, and both extension tubes and the DCR-250 for just ridiculous magnification. While I had the Raynox magnifying lens on and the extension tubes, I walked around the house and made some more kind of test pictures of flowers and things, really small weed type flowers. Wasn't really happy with them on the back of the camera. I'll probably be even less happy with them when I look at them on the computer. And the goal for this project is to eventually try to figure out how to make really close insect photos. And as I was coming back around to the front of the house, there was a fly on the side of the house. And I managed to get one shot of it with both the extension tubes and the Raynox magnifying lens on there. And I don't think it's great, but it is kind of the beginning of what I'm looking to do with this setup. Okay, this is a shot that I made with the DCR-250 and the extension tubes. This is a dandelion bloom, although almost none of it is in focus. I really like the way this photograph came out with this area here kind of in the bottom of the petals of the flower being sharp and everything else drifting out of focus as it gets closer to the lens. I thought this one came out really beautifully. And this is the fly on the side of the house, and you can see it's time to pressure wash the house. I've got some algae trying to grow on the side of the house, but this is the fly and it's not perfectly in focus, and I didn't get the entire insect in the frame. I think I would do much better on a shot like this with just the extension tubes. This is the extension tubes and the DCR-250, but it is kind of a beginning for me of getting really close insect macros, which is something I've not done too much before. All right, thanks a bunch for watching my first impressions, unboxing and things like that with my new Canon RF 100mm f2.8 L Macro IS USM. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch. If you like the content, a thumbs up is always appreciated. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye.